One of the core parts of my chess improvement is solving chess puzzles. These are positions where you have to find the winning move or idea for either black or white. I usually solve these on chess.com or Chess on my computer, on my phone. And while trying to figure out a way to share me solving puzzles, I realized that I could use this as a good excuse to take out my board and one of my chess books, in this case, Imagination in Chess by Bata Gabrindashvili. It contains some 700 or so quite difficult positions to solve. I find that the endgames in the book are manageable for me, but the middle game positions, where there are a lot of pieces, a lot of tension, a lot of branching calculation, I come up short. I could try to solve these again by just looking at the picture drawn in the book, but whenever I put the position on the board, it's a little easier to visualize. I also wanted an excuse to sit on the yellow couch and solve puzzles. Again, if I sit in front of my computer solving puzzles without really thinking too much about anything else, I end up just staring into a screen for most of the afternoon. And in this way, I take myself away from my usual environment and find somewhere else that's quite cozy and lovely to be. This first position is an endgame, and I saw the idea right away that if you just take the pawn and exchange everything, there's a way to win for white immediately, but black doesn't have to exchange the rook right away. The king can go to f6, and if you exchange on that square with the rooks, then the black king gets opposition and can hold a draw. And once you realize that that doesn't work, there are not really that many other options other than pushing the white pawn, then exchanging the pieces, and the black king is not in time for you to make a new queen with the pawn on the a file. Very satisfying little puzzle, considering how difficult they usually are. To some, it might be surprising to hear that chess is a hobby that can lead to a lot of interesting life events. For most, it's a silly board game. To me, it's full of history, not just chess history, but personal history. I learned chess in high school, my last year of high school. I used to play in the Friday cafe, so this is in most high schools in Denmark. There's this Friday bar event on Fridays where there's a student-run bar with alcohol, where usually after school, the students and sometimes the teachers get together and have a beer or two. I have very fond memories of Friday bars and Fredagscafé. Yeah. I used to play a really good friend of mine, and we weren't very good. Obviously, we were both very new to chess, and unfortunately for him, I quickly gained a new hyper obsession. And I started getting better and better and better, and then by the end of the senior year, I couldn't really be beat, even with a few more beers in me than him. And that turned out to be kind of the catalyst of me wanting to improve more. I started playing in a chess club, and I made friends online that played chess. I traveled to different countries and played in chess tournaments and made friends. A few years ago, after COVID, I decided to travel around Europe. I didn't have a place to stay in Denmark at the time, and instead of crashing at friends' houses like I usually did at the time, I decided to travel around Europe for a bit. Again, the grace of some of my online friends, but cat sitting and Airbnb-ing cheap places and interesting locations proved itself to be so much fun. I think especially in Paris, there was a chess cafe for Blitz chess where I made some really good friends. I even got to play a couple of grandmasters and got beat handedly there in the splits tournament that they had. It was a way for me to socialize while traveling. I would find myself in a new city, look up online to see where people were meeting up for chess outside or if there were any clubs nearby. And I'd show up and, get to talking, get to playing, trash talking sometimes too, depending on the culture of the location. And then usually, after a couple of games of chess and a little chatting, I could make a new friend and go eat somewhere they know or hang out, have some wine. Chess for me is an extremely social thing. It was with great pain that my former, I want to say mentor, saw me leave the country to travel around because he kind of relied on me for a lot of things at the club that we were playing in. Chess is slowly dying out in Denmark, at least at the club level. There's less and less players, and the players that were in the clubs, that formed the clubs or participated heavily in the 80s and 90s are growing old and not as interested as they might once have been. So he was quite upset that I left. And understandable too. I enjoyed being there, and one of the things that you do is that you go play against other teams, right? Your club against another club, and the best player on each team play against each other, and it's all like paired 8 against 8. It's a very interesting type of match where you kind of hope that your team does well. It's the overall score that decides the outcome of the match. Sometimes you end up being the last person playing and everyone's watching because you might be playing the decisive game. So chess is very social. It's also for a wandering mind, a distracted mind, something that's quite grounding. Chess sort of forces me to engage in deep focus and thought. And while I still am distracted here and there during a chess game or when solving puzzles, I really have to focus and pull myself together, and whenever I succeed, it's deeply satisfying. It's something that I enjoy tremendously, being able to focus on just the raw position. So it grounds me and it helps me socialize. But it's also deeply competitive. And I'm a very competitive person. I love winning. I hate losing. But in chess, there are no excuses. I mean, you'll have people make up excuses for why they lost. But it's on them. It's on yourself if you lose. Your opponent got the better of you. And you have yourself to blame. And that's tough. It definitely gets to me sometimes. If I am playing a very high stakes game in my mind, high stakes, either my opponent is higher rated than me, or it's the final game of an important tournament. If I feel like I'm winning and it's going well, and then suddenly I make a mistake and I blunder and lose the game, oh, that's a pain. It's a deep frustration there. I think later in life now, I've come to appreciate my opponent's finesse more. If I make a slight mistake and my opponent capitalizes on it, it's easier for me to find myself kind of appreciating their skill. But it sucks still. It sucks to lose. And it really motivates me, that ambition to win. I want to get better. I want to be able to have a higher rating, to win more games against even better opponents. And that drives me. And I love that drive, that hunger. This second position here, I failed to find a pretty cool idea. I got a little lost in thinking that one specific variation was a win, and well, it turned out to not even hold a draw. And then I realized that okay, the puzzle actually just calls for holding a draw. There's a lot of dangers here in the position for black. There's a pawn that's close to being able to come free and start pushing itself down the file, so it's about finding a way to threaten a perpetual check. Perpetual check is when you can check the opponent's king over and over without checkmating them. Perpetually checking them leads to a draw. It was a cool find. The book has a few commentary lines, so I'll tell you, oh, if they play this, this will happen. The book itself has had a few critiques because of it being written in 2004. Computer engines have become a lot better, and what the author writes as the optimal line, the computer's kind of saying, well, that's actually better now. Which I find to be really interesting. How computers have sort of paved the way to dictate how we think about chess and how we evaluate positions. If you're unaware, you might be wholly unaware about the world of chess. Computers are way better than humans at this point. Your phone is able to beat the best player in the world 100 games out of 100. For some, that takes a romantic quality out of the game, I think. They no longer see it as a game of mystery and intrigue because it's kind of able to be laid plain, and you can have a position be very objectively winning or losing or drawn. I like that technology kind of pushes our skill. I enjoy the discoveries of the algorithms behind chess engines. As a computer software developer, I have participated in the open source code for the most popular chess engine. Let me get that right, chess engine. Stockfish. Which is really incredible that the engine that is the best currently is the one that is written open source. Open source means that the code of the engine is available to anyone and anyone can propose changes to it. It leads to this transparent yet competitive environment of you're not a better engine because there's a secret. You're a better engine because mathematically this is better, which I think is really cool. The way computers evaluate positions is very complex now. A lot of it is neural networks as well. It's about these models that kind of give a chess position some intuitive value for either side, black or white. The old heuristics usually meant who's up the most pieces, right? Do you have more pawns than your opponent? More pieces is usually better. But now it's also, have I been here before? That feeling that computers have now for that. Have I been here? What happened last time for something that looked similar? And they mix the more classic heuristics with the neural network models, which I think is really cool. It was fun to record this video, to film myself struggle to solve some chess puzzles, to ramble a little bit about a hobby of mine that I really do enjoy. I think I'll leave the rest of the video as is and talk to you again soon, okay? Thank you for watching.